Hi everyone, my name is Leanne and today I'm going to be talking about some science fiction that I actually like. So I am not a big science fiction reader. It's just not something that I'm really drawn to. I wish I could be one of those people that is like really into space, but I'm not. I don't think I'm ever going to be a space opera girly. And I know that's not all science fiction is. In fact, a lot of the books I'm going to talk to you about today are not in the kind of space science fiction realm. I just think there's so many things that are really fascinating about just how humans interact with each other now that I find science fiction elements being incorporated just a bit of a distraction. And I know rationally that a lot of the times what's being covered when it comes to like these science fiction books is a reflection of what we're actually thinking about in terms of humanity and like our own age and our own technology. Like, I know all of that rationally. I'm not drawn to science fiction, and there's so many other books to read out there that I just feel like I never pick up a science fiction book. Like, I would never prioritize picking up a science fiction book over some other books. But I do have a stack of 5 books to talk to you about today, which are science fiction books that I really enjoyed. So I'm going to kick things off with Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Now, technically, this is 4 books, so good job, mate. So there's The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, The Restaurant at the End of the Universe, Life, the Universe and Everything, and So Long and Thanks for All the Fish. So I read the first Hitchhiker's Guide book on like a coach coming back, I think from like Cardiff to Aberystwyth, like really late at night, like the early hours of the morning, and that is the story that kept me up. And then the second, third and fourth books I read in the aftermath of a breakup, and they were just such a comfort to me. If you are not familiar with this series of books, we are following Arthur Dent's odyssey throughout space and all of the unusual characters that he's meeting. There's a lot of strangeness and sort of whimsy to it, and I think that whimsy is what I like about this book and why it bridged that gap for me with all of the space stuff, and especially because you're seeing it through Arthur's eyes, who is just kind of befuddled the whole time. That worked really well for me, and just kind of the lightheartedness of this as well, especially when I was going through like a tough time where I was struggling to focus on things. I was struggling to even like think. These books were just so much fun. The Power by Naomi Alderman is like feminist science fiction, so it explores a world where women have the power to control electricity, and with that comes the power to, at the click of your fingers, inflict pain on someone or even kill someone. And that physical difference that women have completely switches up the power dynamics between men and women. Suddenly the women are the people with the power, they are the people in charge, it is heading towards a matriarchy, and the men are the people who are vulnerable. I loved what this book was getting across about how no gender is inherently immoral or negative. It is the power that is the negative thing. So we see the women with this power begin to do things and control society and inflict damage in the way that historically, and in fact in the modern day, we see a lot of men with power behave. So there's nothing inherently about that gender that makes them having power dangerous. It's the power itself. This is really one of those science fiction books that is showing a mirror to a lot of contemporary concerns that we have. Okay, so I might get told off for including this because is it science fiction or is it like speculative fiction? I'm going to include it anyway. This is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This is definitely more kind of like literary sci-fi, probably, yes, more speculative than sci-fi, but I did want to talk about it. Station 11 is also kind of an apocalyptic novel, so it follows some sort of end of days event where civilization has been lost, it has collapsed, and it is about who is left behind and how their lives map out and how their lives intersect. It's so much about what it means to be human at its core and about the relationships that humans have between one another, and parts of that are really kind of philosophical. It's a book that is so difficult to summarize because there's so many different kind of things going on in it and so many different characters that are in different sort of places, both literally and kind of the headspace they're in as well, and they're in a lot of like liminal places too. It's a book that is about what happens when civilization is stripped to the bare minimum. What really becomes important then? Herland by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. This is like classic science fiction, and again it's kind of a feminist science fiction as well. So this follows what happens when 3 American men rock up on this island that is super secret and isolated, and they discover that this island is solely populated by women. There are no men. Women are able to reproduce and keep civilization going entirely independently from men. So we're following these 3 men as they kind of go on this voyage and are discovering things about this civilization that they didn't think was possible, that exists in such contrast to the society that they know. What I do enjoy about kind of classic science fiction is seeing what people were thinking about historically, you know, what was the concerns of the time that they were writing in that this now older text is reflecting. And I think reading books like this can really contextualize contemporary science fiction, because you're seeing kind of the canon that came before it, the kind of literacy legacy that is before it. And it's really cool to read these pieces of older sci-fi, not only for the novels themselves, but them almost as like a historical source in that way. And the final book I'm going to talk about is one that is possibly speculative as well, but there's definitely science fiction too, and that is Kindred by Octavia E Butler. So this is set in 1976, and it follows a black woman named Dana, who is a writer, and she finds herself transported to somewhere that she doesn't recognize. She doesn't know what's going on, but there is a child that needs saving, a white child, and of course she springs into action. There is a child that needs help, and she saves this little boy's life. She repeatedly finds herself transported back in time, making some impact on this little boy's life, saving him, and we come to realize that he is actually one of her ancestors. Turns out she's actually being transported back to 1815. So every time she is there, it is a very different situation to the one she is used to in 1976. Everyone who sees her assumes that she is a slave, and that can put her in a lot of danger, especially when she is transported back in time for a longer length of time. And gradually over the course of the novel, she comes to realize the significance of this little boy and how they are connected. And he doesn't remain a little boy. We see him as he gets older. I think this is just such a groundbreaking masterpiece of a novel. It is so fantastic. I absolutely devoured this, and I don't know anyone who's read it who didn't think it was remarkable. There are scenes in this book that feel so tense as you come to realize things about the connection between these two characters. You begin to feel really unsettled as the gravity of that connection and the implications of it begin to come to the forefront of the story. It's a book about gender and race and power, and it is superbly written as well. Based on these books, do you have any sci-fi recommendations for me? Anything you think I might end up liking? Do leave me a comment down below. In honor of the one space book that I've included in this list, although technically 4 books in this bind up, so it's 4 space books, leave me some sort of space related emoji if you would like to let me know you're here and don't have anything in particular to say. That is it for me today. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will speak to you in my next video.